The realization that 28 years of marriage was a complete performance shattered my world in a single afternoon. I always believed that I knew the woman sleeping next to me better than anyone else did. My name is Arthur, and I am a 56-year-old financial consultant who valued stability above all things. That peace dissolved on a crisp Thursday when I decided to surprise my wife at her corporate office. Evelyn was the chief executive officer of a thriving logistics firm, and her grueling schedule often demanded 14-hour workdays. For months, I prepared dinner for one while receiving brief text updates about urgent board meetings. I decided to bring her a favorite beverage and a homemade meal to brighten her stressful day. I rarely visited her downtown headquarters because we always agreed to keep our professional lives separate from our home. The polished marble lobby felt cold and intimidating compared to my quiet office space. I approached the security desk with a warm smile and informed the guard named Vance that I was there to see Evelyn. When I explained that I was her husband, the guard stopped typing and stared at my face with deep confusion. Suddenly, he chuckled out loud and stated that he saw the husband of Evelyn every single day. The security officer pointed toward the elevators where a tall man in a tailored charcoal suit was walking. He was younger than me, with an aura of immense confidence and absolute authority. The guard called out to him, and the man responded with familiar ease while explaining he needed to grab files. That man was Douglas Thorne, the vice president of the company, whom Evelyn occasionally mentioned in casual business conversations. My hands grew entirely numb as the guard explicitly stated that Douglas was married to the chief executive officer. When Douglas looked at me, I recognized a flash of quiet understanding in his eyes rather than shock. My instinct urged me to scream, but my decades of professional patience told me to play along with the situation. I forced a calm voice and introduced myself as a mere friend of the family, dropping off documents. I handed over the lunch and walked back to my vehicle in a complete state of emotional shock. My phone vibrated with a generic text message from Evelyn telling me not to wait up because she was running late. The words of affection at the end of her message felt like total poison. I drove back to our brick suburban home, which suddenly felt like an empty theatrical stage instead of a sanctuary. Evelyn arrived home around 9:30 that evening, looking perfectly composed in her professional attire. She greeted me with her usual tired warmth and began explaining how exhausting her continuous afternoon meetings had been. I mentioned carefully that I stopped by her office earlier to deliver some coffee. She paused for a brief second before smiling and claiming she never received it, but Douglas mentioned a visitor had stopped by. The next morning, she gave me a familiar kiss on the cheek before departing for the office. I could not bring myself to go to work, so I stayed home to examine our life with analytical precision. I searched her home office and discovered a hidden restaurant receipt from an expensive French bistro dated 6 weeks ago. The bill was for 2 people and cost $68, which immediately raised my suspicions. I remembered that specific date because Evelyn claimed she was attending a vital dinner with a new female client. My phone rang, and her name appeared on the screen as she checked on me because I sounded distant that morning. I casually asked her how that past client meeting from 6 weeks ago turned out. She hesitated before answering that the deal did not materialize and they chose a local competitor instead. After the call ended, I began reviewing our credit card statements line by line with meticulous detail. I discovered numerous unexplained charges for luxury meals and fuel purchases in neighborhoods she never frequented. The most devastating evidence appeared on her laptop, which she left open on the kitchen counter. A digital calendar invitation from Douglas showed a scheduled dinner for that very evening at our favorite Italian restaurant. I scrolled through the digital calendar and uncovered a completely separate parallel existence that spanned over 3 years. There were weekly morning coffee dates and weekend retreats disguised as female executive leadership conferences. Douglas was not merely a coworker or a passing mistake, because the records proved he was her primary relationship. I was simply an inconvenient obligation that she carefully managed around her real life with him. The garage door opened early that evening, and Evelyn walked inside wearing a stunning black dress. She looked beautiful and explained that she wrapped up her work early so we could enjoy a spontaneous dinner together. I watched her fingers move rapidly across her phone screen while she suggested a new dining location. If I had not seen the secret calendar invitation, I would have been completely thrilled by her sudden affection. Suddenly she looked up from her device with an expression of manufactured disappointment and sighed deeply. She claimed that an urgent international conference call with the Tokyo office had completely slipped her mind. Evelyn explained that the meeting would last for hours and she needed to head back to the corporate headquarters. She walked upstairs to change her clothing while I remained frozen at the bottom of the staircase. 20 minutes later, she returned downstairs wearing a professional navy blouse and holding her laptop bag. She leaned over to kiss my cheek in the exact same spot she kissed me that morning. She told me not to wait up and I calmly advised her to take all the time she needed. I watched her walk out the front door knowing that she was stepping into her true reality. As the tail lights of her car disappeared into the evening darkness, the illusion of my entire marriage dissolved completely. The painful truth was finally clear because I had been sharing my life with a total stranger for decades. Trust is a fragile structure that takes a lifetime to build, but can vanish in a single afternoon. I realized that my long journey of discovery was over and the time for action had finally arrived.